local news that matters. This is CBS 17 News.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us today for this great conversation, a special conversation that we're going to have today with Captain Victor Glover of the Artemis II mission. He's a trailblazer, a leader, a Navy pilot, one of America's most accomplished astronauts. Captain Glover made history recently, as I know all of you know, piloting NASA's Artemis II mission and leading humanity's return to deep space, and hopefully one day right on to Mars, for sure. Before we begin our conversation, we want to introduce you to him, let you learn a little bit more about him and maybe some things that you did know and didn't know, but let's take a look.
My earliest idea of who I wanted to be growing up was my father. My father was a police officer, and so I wanted to be a police officer. And then I saw a shuttle launch on television, and I thought, I really want to drive one of those. And yes, I said drive because I didn't know any pilots or engineers even for that matter. I'm a public servant, and I have been for 22 years, since January of 1998. And so I ask myself, have I done all that I can for my country and for my family? I have fantasized about stepping on the moon. It's my dream. My dream is to work on the surface of the moon. And being able to launch humans from American soil is a very big part of that. I was sitting at my desk in the Russell Senate office building, and I got a phone call from a Houston phone number, and by the time I answered, I missed it. And so I called back, and after a lot of waiting and being transferred, I was transferred to Janet Kavandi, who was the chair of our board, and she asked me if I wanted to come to Houston and commence training. And I actually pinched myself several times walking back to my office. There is no way that this is a real thing. I'm gonna wake up and be so disappointed. When I woke up the next day, and I actually had an email from Janet saying it was not a dream. That was actually unreal.
He's a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy, where he flew F-18s. He came to us from Washington, D.C., where he was serving as the United States Navy Legislative Fellow in the United States Senate. Victor?
Being selected for this job, you can't help but to think of, I've got so many friends that I know could do this job well. And that feeling of, wow, why didn't they get it? And feeling like you're not really good enough cut out for the job. And I felt all of those things. Being a father, a husband, all of those things come with doubt. And I think you have to learn to get comfortable with the doubt. They call things moonshots when people accomplish something amazing. No matter how good a story you tell, people are captivated by real world accomplishment. It's our generation's opportunity to have our own literal moonshot, and then to continue inspiring future generations to reach for the moon.
They not only have the right stuff, they represent the full tapestry of American diversity. Their journey begins now, and the nation will be right beside them, reaching for the stars.
An absolutely incredible journey, an incredible mission, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to just welcome Captain Victor Glover to the program today. Captain Glover, Brother Glover, we'll talk about why we say brother in a little bit. It is so good to see you, and thank you so much for all that you have brought to the world and being the pilot of this mission. I guess my first question right off the bat is, this is something that none of us, 99.9% of us will never experience. What is it like to just be there in deep space and looking back at Earth and looking at the moon? Just what is that feeling like?
Well, first, thank you, Brother Carter. It's great to be here. And I watched that video, and it's cool to see a younger me go
I
way
was
back.
watching that video, smiling, and I thought, he likes this.
Some good memories, and it's been an amazing journey. We've been blessed, definitely. It's difficult to describe. For a while, I was hesitant to put words to it because I did not want to diminish the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I really want folks to think about is the Earth is hanging in the middle of so much nothing, emptiness. The universe is mostly empty space, and we should meditate on that every day. Because then when you put it in contrast, we saw the moon up close, and seeing the moon in all of its beauty and splendor, it's essentially frozen in time until it gets hit by a rock flying through space. But our Earth, it gets a makeover, a facial constantly. The clouds and the water and the wind are changing our Earth. And just to see it next to the moon, it is such a stark contrast that we have bounty and beauty and safety here on Earth because of that atmosphere and liquid, solid, and gaseous water all existing at the same time. You need that for human life. And so to be out there, I was put right in between life and death, really nothingness and life. And I wish you could see it. But since most people can't get up there, at least right now, you
Yeah.
have to trust me that it makes you truly appreciate this place that we get to call home together.
And this is coming from a purely selfish point. Were you scared? Because I was scared watching. I was so nervous. I
Um,
didn't want anything to go wrong, and I wanted it all to be perfect. And it literally all came together so well.
it looked good, but that's due to the training of hundreds, maybe thousands of people all over the world supporting us, and my amazing crew. The four of us were up there working very hard. But I don't like being asked this question because the
Okay.
answer is no. But you got to give me a little bit of time to explain. It is not an ego
Okay.
statement. It's not trying to be macho, beating my chest. I wasn't scared. It is okay to be scared. It is rational. It is a completely rational fear to sit on top of a rocket that can produce 9 million pounds of thrust almost. But we were
Yeah.
so well trained and so prepared. But the other thing is, as a man of faith, I believe that we are not built to live in fear. And so before I get into an aircraft, before I sit on top of a rocket, I mean, I've only done that twice in my life, but before doing that, I spend time with the people that I love. I speak to my mother and my father and my stepmother, my brothers, and then I pray. And at that point, it's not just the will and spending time with my family, but truly all of my affairs are in order. And so I really feel like I can be clear headed and present for what I'm about to go through because I'm not carrying any fear.
Yeah, that is so true, and you're absolutely right. Where there is faith, there is no fear, or at least there should not be. There are moments in space travel where precision matters, and it comes down to like a second. How do you mentally prepare for that kind of like split second responsibility?
Well, we get lots of practice, and I think that's maybe the attribute that mattered the most. I think the things we practiced, they went really well. The things that we did not get to practice, there were challenges, but the people we work with are able to adapt in the moment, and that's why we work so hard at selecting the people that we do. But I think the other thing I want to say about practice is that, there's a saying that practice makes perfect, or
Right.
one of my daughter's music teachers used to say, perfect practice makes perfect. But I think that can put a lot of pressure on people. Here's what I think: practice makes process. And if you have healthy processes, then you create the types of precision expectations that human spaceflight deserves. It needs you to be very precise, and sometimes. And so I think we had such an amazing training team that got us ready with simulations and creative ideas to challenge the system, the way that things failed, the software and hardware failures. And after having done the mission, I still think, well, there's a dozen of other things that we could have simulated, but we just didn't know it at the time. And so the next crew will have even more to train and to practice before they go up on their mission.
And there were so many delays. I'm sure that gave you more time to just keep going through those drills and make sure that everything was perfect and in order. You alluded to
Absolutely.
this in the story that we ran at the top about not necessarily ever wanting to be an astronaut. Like how kind of further explain how your vision and your view about being an astronaut changed.
Absolutely. The biggest thing was as a child, I didn't know astronauts, pilots, engineers, which, wound up being my path into this, but I couldn't see that for myself because I didn't understand the path to get there. When I learned what, an engineer was, I was, I don't know, well into high school. The first
Yeah.
time someone mentioned engineering to me, I thought it was about driving trains. And so I think the exposure or lack of exposure was my first big barrier.
Hmm.
And then going to college programs and being able to see what it's like to be a college student, what kind of things they study, what kind of careers they go on to, and starting to build some understanding and context. The astronaut job just seemed so far out there and so far away. I went to college to become an engineer, and I wanted to design automobiles, conceptual design. I like art and
Right.
science together. And I also wanted to play professional football. I've always looked up to Marcus Allen. I wanted to go to USC for that reason because that's where he went to undergraduate. And wound up weaving all those things together, sports and technology and math, but then also a commitment to service. And I've loved being in service and of service. My grandmother during the holidays used to take us to nursing homes so that we could do something for the people, the residents that live there. And service has just always been a theme throughout my life. And when I wove those together, I wound up finding this path to serve in the military, and I was able to use, a lot of the different gifts and skills that I had grown over the time. And then I was in test pilot school when I heard Pam Melroy give a talk at a test pilot conference. She is the second woman to command a space shuttle mission. And she gave a talk about her mission and her crew that I'll just say at the end of it, I went, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and NASA will have to tell me no, but I'm still going to apply. I would love to be a part of that team. And so that vision shifted over time, even though, as a child, I knew about NASA, but I had no clue what the path was to get there.
You mentioned scholarship and service and brotherhood. We're going to take a quick break and talk a little bit about those things because we have a little something in common about that. So give me 1 second. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We are so honored to be talking with Captain Victor Glover, the pilot of the Artemis II mission, furthest in space around the moon. A brother who's been further away than anybody. And when I say brother, I mean a brother of Phi Beta Sigma. You and I have that in common. We had the great pleasure of, I had the great pleasure of interviewing you several years ago. You may remember this when you were on the ISS during our Founders Day. Talk a little bit about service, because that is the hallmark of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. What we do is we serve the community. And you mentioned that that's something that's been instilled in you from day one.
The childhood memories of holidays to me were more about service and doing things for others than they were about getting gifts or even the meals, the time with family, the laughing, the joking. It was all about we were laughing and joking while we were making dinner or making bags to take to the convalescent homes or to the youth home. And those memories were so strong in me that when I had children, my wife and I decided we wanted to do that as well. We wanted them to think of the holidays as an opportunity to do something for others so that they grow up with that expectation of themselves so that they could, try to live up to something bigger than themselves. That and that work in Sunday school, just shaping their hearts has always been important to us. And so it's no surprise, I guess to me, it was a surprise in the moment, but it's no surprise looking back on it now after 28 years of being a public servant and serving in our military that I'm loving these pictures that you're showing. This has been truly a blessed journey, that to be able to lay my head on my pillow at night and think this is what I've done for my country and for humanity. And, you mentioned we're in the same fraternity. Brotherhood, scholarship, and service are important to us. And I will always love these words: culture for service and service for humanity.
Absolutely.
That thought, that idea, all of us can strive to live up to that. And the world will be a better place if we did.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we want to kind of look ahead to where exploration of space goes right after that. Give me 1 minute. We'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, and we are continuing our conversation with Captain Victor Glover, member of the Wondrous Band of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, as am I. I just got to keep throwing that part in there for sure. For a lot of African-American students, seeing you in the role that you have been in as the pilot of Artemis II mission was an incredibly powerful moment. I think we can all look back to some of the other astronauts who have been a part of it, who, people of color, but this makes a huge difference for young people who may be interested in STEM programs and space exploration. Did you feel any weight or pressure being that kind of role model for them?
That's a great question, Brother Carter. I don't think I felt pressure. I think a better word is responsibility. When you study legacy and you recognize that it comes right up to you. I mean, to you, Brother Carter, to the young people watching this, to their parents, what the Tuskegee Airmen did and what Mae Jemison did and what Guy Bluford did and what Ed Dwight did and what Harriet Tubman did and what Frederick Douglass did and what Barack Obama has done and is doing. Those things run right up to us now today. Legacy is not about the history book. It's about applying that now, and it continues through us. And so I felt a responsibility, yes. But I also want to say to all of us, to our community specifically, I can talk about my grandfather's time in the Air Force, how he didn't have the opportunity to do the things I've been blessed to do, and how that shows progress. but yet and still we have so much more to do. There's still work to do. That is not an excuse for us to sit on our laurels and celebrate all that we've done. We need to keep it going because it's not going to just stay in place. It will back up. It will roll back if we don't continue to keep the press on. As in our fraternity, we say our cause speeds on its way, and it surely does. And I also want to speak to young people because this is something that I also feel strongly. While I am so grateful for the blessing to do what I've done and to represent all of us, to represent them, and for them to see themselves in this mission in a way that I couldn't see when I was younger, I also want them to look at Reed and Jeremy, and I want them to see something there that is theirs. They own that story. I want them to look at Christina, and I want them to be proud. And I want the little girls to look at us three guys and to be proud because this is our story. And I'm going to quote the gentleman, Carter Woodson, Dr. Carter Woodson, who started Negro history in this country, Negro History Week. In the Journal of Negro History, he wrote, "We need not study Negro history. We need to study the Negro in history. We need not the history of selected races or nations. We need the history of the world void of race, religious, and gender bias. This is our story. And when we can appreciate the contributions of all of us, we can take ownership of that entire story. And that is the point. And I want us to appreciate our progress, but also appreciate this is our human story, and we all get to take hold of it."
And that's something that young people now, no matter what they're thinking about doing as a career, if there's some trepidation, some fear, they need to know that it's boundless. It's limitless possibilities for them. And you literally have shown there's limitless possibilities that they can go as high as they want to go.
The sky is not the limit anymore. Yeah. And here, to not put pressure on any of you young people, but to put some weight of responsibility on you. The future is resting on your shoulders. I want you to know not only is the opportunity there, there is a need. We need you. I am looking for my replacement, and it is you. So go out there and become the best version of you, and then call me. Send me your resume because I'm looking.
I'm looking for my replacement too, brother. More than you may know. All right, final question for you because I know we're running out of time with you, and I'm so grateful for every moment you've been able to give me too. When history looks back at the Artemis II generation, what do you think people will remember the most?
Hopefully what's going on right then and there, because it continues and we're still going and we're still going and we're still going, that it's bigger than politics. It's bigger than one nation's contribution. If they have a hard time remembering our mission, that to me would be the true mark of success, because Artemis is still going strong. It is a relay race, and we are in the process of passing the baton as we continue to be good stewards of our nation's space program and our partner space programs. And so I want them to focus on the next thing so we can just keep it going. First don't matter if there's no second, third, and fourth.
That is so true. Captain, brother, Victor Glover, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Always good talking with you. And I know you have inspired us grown folk and the young folk at the same time, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brother Carter. It's great talking to you. Next time, we're doing this in person.
Yes, let's do that. All right, we're going to make that happen. We're going to make that happen. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate you checking us out. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.